The desert didn't care who you were, millionaire, mechanic, or just lost. The sun boiled over an empty road when Eli Walker's Maserati coughed its last breath. The AC died first, then the engine, then his shot at $1 billion deal, melting into the asphalt like everything else he built. No signal, no help, just the buzz of heat and panic. Then tires on gravel, a beat-up Ford truck, and her. She didn't speak much, just stepped out with grease on her hands and steel in her spine, fixed the car like it was hers. He reached into his wallet. She reached out her hand. And there it was, a ring, silver, worn, sapphire glowing like a bruise against the sun. His hand froze. His breath caught. He'd seen that ring before. But the girl he gave it to wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The air shimmered like glass. Heat waves twisted the highway into illusions. Eli Walker cursed under his breath. Slamming the Maserati's hood shut, steam coiled from the engine like a wounded animal. And his $1,000 suit was soaked in sweat. He tapped his Rolex. 11:43 a.m. 17 minutes to walk into a boardroom and pitch a deal that could rewire the future of urban water. Now he was stranded, no signal, no driver, no help, just silence and heat, until a new sound cut through the stillness. Old tires, crunching gravel. A rusted pickup rolled to a stop 10 feet behind him. The engine coughed once and died. The driver's door creaked open. She stepped out. A woman in grease-stained jeans and sun-worn boots. Sleeves rolled up, curly hair pulled back under a faded ball cap. Her presence wasn't loud. It was still unapologetic, unshakable. "You stuck?" she asked. Voice flat as dust. Eli blinked. "Yeah." Engine overheated. "Probably a blown gasket. I've got—" She didn't wait, just walked past him, popped the hood again, and leaned in. He flinched as steam hissed out. She didn't. "It's your cooling system," she muttered. "Thermostat's jammed. I can patch it enough to get you 30 miles. But that's it." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You're a mechanic." She didn't look up. "No, I'm a florist in disguise." He laughed despite himself. "Fair enough." She returned to her truck, grabbed a battered toolbox, and started working. No wasted motion, no small talk, just focus. Eli watched her, confused and impressed. "Look, I really appreciate this. I've got an investor meeting in the city in 12 minutes. She snorted, then stopped talking. By the time the car coughed back to life, Eli felt like the day had shifted off its axis. She wiped her hands on a rag and stepped back. "You've got maybe 45 minutes before it overheats again. Don't stop. Don't stall." Eli opened his wallet, pulled out a crisp stack of bills. "Thank you. Really?" She hesitated, then reached to take it. That's when he saw it. Her hand, her ring. Silver, worn, delicate, a single sapphire catching the sun. Eli's breath hitched. It wasn't just familiar, it was specific. That ring, that exact one, he'd held it in his hand once decades ago, in the woods behind the orphanage, slipped it onto a girl's finger with trembling hands, promised he'd come back, promised he'd never forget. But life had other plans. She noticed his stare, slowly pulled her hand back. Her eyes flickered a twitch in the corner of her mouth, pain recognition. "It was my mother's," she said, voice careful. Eli swallowed. "What's your name?" She paused. "Cole," she said. "Ava Cole." The name hit like a thunderclap behind his ribs. He stepped back. The car's engine purred. The past howled. Ava turned toward her truck. If it breaks down again, shop's 10 miles past the Aurora turnoff. She climbed in, slammed the door, and left him standing on the shoulder, heartbeat louder than the engine. The last thing he saw was the glint of silver disappearing into dust. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He sat in the penthouse's blackout silence, city lights smearing across the glass behind him, and stared at the thing he hadn't touched in 20 years. A box! Scratched, old, lined with soft velvet. Inside it, a carved wooden bird, rough around the edges, wings open, a child's first attempt at art or hope. He ran a finger along its beak. The memory came rushing back. 23 years ago, Orion Creek Orphanage. He was Noah then, scrawny, stammering, always clutching a broken pocket knife and a piece of soft pine, carving when he was scared, carving when he was alone, which was always, until her. She was the girl with the skinned knees and a fierce voice, who stole food from the kitchen and shared it without asking. She taught him how to sand with patience, how to hold the knife without fear, said the world already had too many people who only took and not enough who created. Her name was Ava. He gave her the ring. She gave him the bird. 2 orphans, promising things they didn't know, life wouldn't let them keep. He was adopted by the Walkers. She stayed behind. He never wrote. The next morning, Eli drove to the only address that made sense, now a low, rust-colored building just outside of Aurora, Cole's garage. He wasn't sure what he'd say or what she'd do, but he brought the bird. She was under a lifted truck, feet sticking out, music echoing from inside Fleetwood Mac. Maybe she didn't look surprised when he approached. "You made it," she said flatly. "You knew I would." She slid out, wiped her hands, leaned against the frame. "I figured you'd Google me. Most people with guilt do." Eli held out the brooch. "I never forgot you." She looked at it for a long time, then back at him. "You didn't remember my face." "I saw the ring." You saw the ring and remembered yourself." Her voice wasn't angry. It was worse. It was hollow. He swallowed. "You kept it. My mother gave it to me, right before everything went dark." "What happened to her?" Ava didn't answer. He shifted. "You changed your name. Didn't want to be found. That makes 2 of us." She exhaled through her nose. "I waited. You know, every week for a year. Thought you'd write. Thought you'd call the home. Then I realized boys like you don't come back, and I wasn't allowed to." She narrowed her eyes. "That's convenient." Eli stepped closer. "My adoptive father, Russell, he cut everything, records, access, told me the orphanage had shut down. I was 12. I didn't even know how to argue." Ava's gaze softened. "Just a crack, but you believed him." He nodded slowly, longer than I should have. They stood in silence. The smell of grease and metal filled the space between them. "I don't need closure," she said. "This isn't a movie." It never was. He placed the bird on the workbench. Gently, "But I needed you to know I remembered something real, even if it took me too long to say it." She looked at the brooch, then at him. Something in her shifted, not forgiveness, but something older, quieter, worn. "Why now?" she asked. He hesitated. "Because I saw a ring and realized I never really left." She didn't respond, just turned, grabbed her wrench, and slid back under the truck. Her voice echoed from underneath. "If you're gonna keep showing up, Walker, you'd better learn how to pull a damn starter belt." But what Ava didn't know was that Eli hadn't come just to remember. He'd come to uncover the truth buried under his own last name. It started with a file. Ava slid it across the table like it was something radioactive. Dust clung to the manila folder like it hadn't been touched in years, or maybe like it shouldn't have been. "Your last name's not just heavy," she said. "It's dirty." Eli opened it. Property maps, land transfer deeds, legal documents with his father's signature, Russell Walker. Most were stamped Clearwater Development Initiative. "This is the land your company's building on," she said. "Right now, your new Ecotech headquarters." He flipped pages. One stood out. A death certificate. Name, Lena Cole. Cause, house fire. Date, 20 years ago. He looked up, confused. "My mom," Ava said, "except she didn't die. She disappeared after signing over this land. Eli blinked. She's alive. She was, last I heard, I don't know where she is now, but she never came back. He kept reading. The notarized signatures. The transfer of 40 acres to Walker Global Holdings, value $15,000, market value at the time, over $1 million. They forced her, he asked. Ava's jaw tightened. She said someone threatened her, told her she had to vanish or I'd be taken. Eli's stomach churned. This looks like something from a Netflix show, he muttered. No. She said, it looks like your father. The words hit harder than he expected. She slid a photo onto the table, a faded print of Lena and young Ava, standing beside an old well. On the back, Coal Land, Freshwater Source 03. Your father didn't just want our land. She said he wanted what was underneath it. Eli froze. The aquifer. She nodded. Largest freshwater reserve in the state. Untapped, untouched, until now. His mind raced campaign slogans, investor decks, Russell's proud speeches about water security and sustainable innovation. Built on a lie, on a theft. I didn't know, Eli said, voice low. You do now. He stood, pacing. How are you still here? He asked. Why stay in a town that tried to bury you? Ava gave a tired smile. Because ghosts haunt better when you don't move. She pointed to the documents. I've been collecting these for 10 years, waiting for the day I could make them mean something at. You want to go public? I'm not looking for attention, she said. I'm looking for accountability. He hesitated. There's a press event next week. He said, ribbon cutting for the new HQ. My dad will be there. Investors. Media. She met his eyes. Then that's where it ends. He paused. He'll come after you. He already did, she said, standing, and he failed. They stood in silence, outside. The wind rattled the garage door. Something unspoken passed between them, not quite trust, not quite alliance, but something undeniable. Eli picked up the folder. I want to help us. She eyed him carefully. You sure you're not just trying to fix the part of yourself you broke? Maybe, he admitted, but either way, this has to come down. She nodded once. Then we bring it down together. Later that night, Eli sat in his apartment, not the penthouse, but the small one he hadn't used in years. He locked the door, pulled out his laptop, searched one name, Project Clearwater. Most files were encrypted, but buried in an old internal archive. He found something strange. A subfolder labeled Aurora Holdings. R. Walker. Private. Password protected. He stared at it, typed in a guess. Lena. It opened. What he found wasn't just acquisition files, it was surveillance logs, timelines, a confidential letter with the subject line, Containment Procedures, Coal. The final page made his chest freeze. A photo, a blurry woman, gray streaked through her hair, a newspaper in her lap, timestamp. 8 years ago. Location, New Haven Psychiatric Facility, private sector. He whispered it aloud. She's alive. But Ava wasn't the only one carrying secrets. And what Eli found next would make the ground shake under everything he called family. The sky was too blue for what was about to happen. Flags flapped. Brass music echoed. A red carpet led into the heart of the Walker Ecotech campus, a pristine glass structure built on the bones of buried lives. Reporters buzzed like flies. CEOs drank sparkling water under LED banners that screamed, "The future is clean. The future is Walker." Russell Walker stood at the podium in a flawless charcoal suit, waving to the crowd like a savior. He didn't see Eli yet. Not until his son stepped onto the stage, not in a suit, but in a navy work jacket, sleeves rolled, and beside him, Ava. There was no mic, no script, just two people with a folder. Russell's smile cracked. "Eli," he said, jaw locked. What the hell is this? Truth, Eli said. The crowd shifted. Photographers zoomed in. Russell grabbed his arm. Off the stage. Now. Not this time. Ava took the mic. This land doesn't belong to Walker Global. She said, it belongs to the Cole family. It always has. Murmurs spread. She opened the folder and raised a photo. This is my mother, Lena Cole. 20 years ago, she was forced to sign over her property, a parcel sitting on top of the region's largest freshwater reserve. Then she was told to vanish or lose her child. Gasps. Russell tried to cut in. This woman is emotionally unstable. I found her, Eli said, voice clear, in a facility, registered under a false name, the signature on her intake form. He held up a printed scan. Yours. The air turned electric. My father kidnapped a woman, Eli continued, and built a billion-dollar empire on top of her silence. Security stepped closer, but didn't move. Russell stared at them. Get them off my stage. But they didn't budge. A new voice rang out cold, poised. Maybe they'll move for me. Heads turned. Elise Morgan heiress, power broker, and Eli's soon-to-be fiancé stepped onto the platform, stilettos silent on the stage. She held up a thin folder of her own. When I agreed to marry into this empire, she said, I did my due diligence. I always do. She looked directly at Russell. What I found wasn't just about land. It was about children, false adoptions, rewritten records, including Eli's. The crowd gasped again. Eli isn't your son, she said. He's the child of Lena Cole, taken from the orphanage after your real son died. Russell turned pale. That's a lie. Elise pulled out a document, then explained this. She handed it to a reporter in the front row, a death certificate, for your biological child, dated 1 week before Eli was adopted, and Eli didn't move. He didn't need to. His silence said more than rage ever could. Russell looked like a man bleeding from the inside, slow, invisible, fatal. He backed away from the mic. And then, someone stepped out from the crowd. Lena. Older, slower, but unmistakably her. She wore a long gray coat and carried nothing but a ring, the twin of Ava's. She walked toward the stage with a calm that shattered everything. You made me disappear, she said, facing Russell, but I never died. Ava met her halfway. They embraced, decades folding into seconds. Reporters surged forward. Cameras flashed. Russell tried to step away, but police officers appeared at the edge of the platform. Russell Walker. One said, You're under arrest for fraud, coercion, illegal detainment, and conspiracy. Handcuffs clicked. He didn't fight. He just stared at Eli. You were nothing. Eli held his gaze, and you were everything I never wanted to be. As the officers took him away, the banners still read, The future is clean. But now, they looked like tombstones. That night, the story exploded. CEO arrested during launch event, stolen land, stolen son-daughter. Reunites with mother after 20 years in hiding. Walker dynasty exposed the family that built an empire on lies. In a quiet apartment overlooking nothing special, Eli sat with Lena and Ava. The ring sat between them on the table. The bird brooch lay beside it. Lena touched both, then looked at Eli. You were never supposed to be lost. Eli said nothing, but his eyes had never been clearer. But even as the empire crumbled, one truth still hadn't surfaced, and it would rewrite what family meant forever. 3 days later, silence settled over the Walker estate like dust on forgotten furniture. The press camped outside, the investors vanished, stocks plummeted, and inside, Eli stood alone, surrounded by portraits that weren't his family and walls that never felt like home. He sat in Russell's office. The man's old files spread across the desk like wreckage from a storm. Medical records, adoption papers, blacked out lines, whispers in ink. He read one sentence again and again. No biological ties. Subject transferred from Orion Creek Orphanage under private contract. He wasn't a son. He was a replacement. Across town. Ava sat beside her mother in a small cafe. Steam curled from mugs neither of them touched. He doesn't talk much. Ava said, "He never did." Lena whispered, "Even as a baby." Ava paused. "He was mine too, wasn't he?" Lena stared out the window. Rain blurred the glass. "I wanted to keep you both, but I couldn't." She reached into her purse, pulled out an old photo, 2 toddlers in a garden, a little girl with curly hair, a little boy with sharp eyes and a wooden bird in his hand. "You were twins," she said softly, "born 5 minutes apart." Ava's hand shook, but the paperwork, falsified, under threat. "I was told to choose, so I disappeared with you. They took him up." Her voice cracked. "And I've been trying to find you both ever since." That evening, Eli returned to the garage. He didn't knock, just walked in, soaked from the rain, and held out the photograph. Ava stared at it, and then at him. "It was always you," she said. He nodded once. "We were never strangers." She stepped forward, not to hug him, not yet, but to stand beside him, shoulder to shoulder. "Half a life lost," she whispered, "and half still left." He said. The next day, they called a press conference. No corporate stage, no velvet curtain, just a folding table in front of the burned-out shell of what was once the Cole family home, now overgrown. Cracked, but standing. Eli faced the cameras. "My name is Elijah Cole," he said. "Not Walker, not heir, just a man trying to tell the truth." He looked to Ava, who nodded. "We are children of Lena Cole, heirs to land that was taken and a legacy that was buried. Today, we reclaim both." They announced the repurposing of the Walker Tech campus, now renamed the Clearwater Trust, a center for environmental research, clean water advocacy, and youth training programs, entirely non-profit. The land would stay in public stewardship, and the money used to repair what was broken. That night, in the quiet of the old Cole garage, Eli sat beside the brooch and the ring. He traced the curve of the bird's wing, the metal band's tiny inscription, "Long worn down return." Ava entered, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. "You still sure about this?" she asked, giving it all away. Eli took a sip. "I never had anything to begin with, just the lies." Ava sat beside him. Their mother's laughter drifted in from the kitchen. "We're not rebuilding an empire," she said. "We're building something no one can steal." He looked at her and smiled. For the first time, he said, "I feel like I know my real last name." But names are only the start. Sometimes, healing means building with the same hands that once broke. 6 months later, the old garage breathed again. Fresh paint clung to brick walls. The cracked cement floor had been patched, but not replaced. Scars, they decided, weren't meant to be erased, just understood. A wooden sign now hung above the entrance. Cole & Cole. Restoration, repair, renewal. Inside, Ava taught a 12-year-old boy how to steady his hands while changing a spark plug. "It's not about force," she said. "It's about respect. The metal listens when you do it." Laughter echoed from the back, where teenagers, most of them from group homes, sanded down car doors and rebuilt rusted frames. Their hands didn't just fix machines. They remembered what it felt like to make something last. At the far end, Eli hunched over paperwork. Hair longer now, eyes softer, no more penthouse, no boardroom, just this. He looked up as Ava walked over, wiping her hands with a rag. "How's the grant application going?" she asked. "Approved," he said. 3 counties want to replicate the model at. She grinned. Told you we were contagious. They walked outside, where Lena tended to a row of lemon trees along the fence, an idea she insisted on. Every home needs something that bears fruit, she'd said. She handed them 2 glasses of lemonade. No more boardroom blends for you, she teased. This one's from real lemons and water that isn't stolen. They clinked glasses and drank. A breeze passed. Ava glanced down at her hand, the silver ring still there, now polished, resized, but unchanged. Lena noticed. It always belonged to you, she said softly, even when you didn't know it. Eli pulled the bird brooch from his pocket, now hanging on a leather cord around his neck. I've been thinking, he said. All of this, it wasn't about what we lost. Ava tilted her head. Then what? It's about what we kept. He looked at her. We didn't lose our names. They were just buried. We didn't lose our home. It just got hijacked, and we didn't lose each other. She smiled, quiet and whole. We just had to find the road back in. That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, Lena lit 3 candles on the workshop windowsill, one for what was taken, one for what was returned, and one for what was never truly lost. Inside, Eli helped a kid carve a block of cedar. What are you making? The boy asked. Eli smiled. A bird. Why a bird? Because it remembers how to come home. Not every family begins at birth. Not every inheritance comes in cash. But sometimes, the deepest truths, the ones that break and mend us, begin with a broken car, a silver ring, and 2 hands that never forgot how to build.